High control groups, they try to progressively get people to suppress their authentic identity, which you can call your actual self, who you really are. And they try to shift people's focus from who they want to be, which is their potential self, who they want to be in the future, to who the group expects them to be, which you can call in psychology, that's called the ought self, who the group who the group expects you to be, which is your ought self. So they also constantly try to reinforce this new identity, this ought self, the way that the group expects you to be, and they try to suppress your old identity, who you really are. And this is a constant thing that they do. And of course, one of the things within religious cults that they capitalize a lot is trying to convince you that your authentic self is extremely sinful, extremely evil. You can't trust yourself. Who you wanted to be, the goals that you made for yourself, it's all worldly, it's sinful, it's not important, it's useless, it's not going to take you to heaven. So it's for people that believe in these religious beliefs, it's very kind of easy to convince them to throw those things away. So one of the things, and this is very important, that one of the things that cults do really well is that they constantly try to maximize their control over the environment of the group members. And they also try to maximize it over those that are being recruited. So they try to control the environment of those in the group and those being recruited. They want to be in control as much as they can to control that environment so that the social influences can also convince the people. Of course, for example, from SCJ's point of view, they try to, they think that they're just recruiting people with the doctrine and that the doctrine is the only thing that convinces people. They're using a lot of other tactics. And from their point of view, they think that those tactics, which I would consider unethical, they think that those tactics are okay because they're saving people that actually belong to the devil. So as long as they're saving people in the name of God, then that's okay. So in that sense, the ends justify the means. And another thing that they do is they try to minimize any outside interference. If there's, of course, inside of the church, they have this development process where they try to make people into true believers. And they don't want people inside the church to have too close connections with anyone outside of the church, because then that will influence that kind of development process. So they don't want any outside interference. And also specifically when they recruit people, they don't want there to be unnecessary outside interference. So they isolate the people that they're recruiting from anyone outside that could ultimately, get involved and try to stop the people from actually joining the organization. So while they do all of these things, they will continuously kind of tell the people that are being recruited, as well as the people inside of the church, the members, group members, that they need to discern for themselves, which is quite ironic because they're constantly creating an environment where it's very, very difficult to discern for yourself. You're not given all the information. You don't have sufficient information to come to an informed decision. But they'll tell you, you need to discern for yourself. You need to discern for yourself. You're being empowered. And this gives you a false sense of control where you think, I'm in complete control. When I joined this organization, I was in complete control from the beginning. But in reality, you aren't. And this is sometimes quite difficult to explain to people because they really want to believe that they were in full control.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think that was something that stuck out to me yesterday when I was listening. And as I'm hearing that, I'm almost trying to think of like a visual analogy that would fit to kind of explain what that looks like. Because it almost, I guess a picture that comes to my mind is it's almost like they take these people outside of the freedom and like of the real world and kind of they stick them inside this box that they've created. Like if you actually think of a physical cardboard box and they stick them inside that, this is their box that they've created, and they put all the information and they've painted it however they want on the inside. And then they say, you have freedom. You choose whatever you want inside that box. You can choose. And so I think when you say like people get this false sense of being able to choose themselves, it's kind of like that they're choosing something, but they're not really free to choose because they've been so limited to through fear tactics and like you talked about demonizing and demonization of any other goals or the people in your lives or the things that you might want to pursue that they now have convinced you are worldly. And so they they kind of set you up to where you feel like you can choose, but the choices that they've given you are their choices and are incredibly limited. So
yeah, so I just wanted to kind of share like some kind of tactics that are commonly used by high control groups, and most of these things apply to SCJ, but of course they can apply to other organizations as well. So there's various tactics that high control groups that they use to successfully recruit people, to make people more susceptible to changing their minds, and also to make people meet group expectations. So this is a common thing. So meeting group expectations is extremely important to them. They constantly want to make everyone meet a specific expectation. And of course, those group expectations are determined by, in SCJ's example, it would perhaps be Manny Lee and the tribe leaders, but it tends to be the people in authority that pretty much make the rules. Those people will tell you this is the way that people need to be. And then the rest of the leaders lower in structure will then get the members to meet those group expectations. That was like when I was a leader, that's the constant struggle, is you try to get students, you try to get members to meet specific expectations that are set by a higher leadership. It's a kind of never-ending battle. There's constantly new expectations, and you're constantly fighting to get people to meet those expectations.